The Wagner Group marched towards Moscow in an attempt to overthrow Russian military leadership, and it prompted a flurry of political activity, the U.S. calling key allies today. Joining us now to talk more is White House columnist for The Hill, Niall Stanage. Niall, thanks so much for being here.
Good to be with you, Natasha.
Niall, what are you tracking in terms of the administration's response today?
One of the most interesting things about that response, I think, Natasha, is the administration's eagerness to avoid doing anything that would allow Russian President Vladimir Putin to blame the White House or blame American influence for all of this. The White House obviously is tracking events closely. We know the President and the Vice President have been briefed throughout the day. But they don't want to do anything that would feed any narrative that this was somehow a US or NATO or Western-backed attempt at what was effectively a coup, even though, of course, it has taken something of a reverse turn in the last few hours.
And Niall, explain why it's so important that the West appeared to have nothing to do with the last 24 hours. Is it the fear that Putin could use that and spin that information?
Exactly, yes. I mean, if you look at the biggest picture in all of this, whether it's the events of the last 24 hours or even the war in Ukraine itself, Putin's narrative is one in which the West is surrounding him, is encroaching on Russian sovereignty and Russia's sphere of influence. That is his view of the whole conflict in Ukraine and, in fact, his view of the world. So the White House doesn't want to do anything to fuel that narrative. Other Western countries obviously want to keep their own distance from that narrative and really focus on the fact that this appears to have been a setback from within for President Putin.
Well, Michael McFaul, former ambassador to Russia, said that Wagner pulling their troops makes Putin look even weaker than he was 24 hours ago. What are your thoughts on this?
It clearly is a significant setback for Putin. I mean, he prides himself, Natasha, as you know, on this sort of Iron Man, Iron Leader kind of persona. He sees himself almost as a personification of Russian strength himself. So for this to happen and for the rebel troops, if we can use that term, to have made such rapid progress before they U-turned is itself a blow to Putin's prestige and to his sense of himself. So I think in that respect, even though there appears to have been a compromise solution negotiated, it is still a bad thing for Vladimir Putin.
Now, why should Americans care about the Wagner Group beyond the war in Ukraine? What role are they suspected to have played on previous U.S. elections?
Well, I mean, this really goes to their leader, who has himself said that he created a group called the Internet Research Agency. That group was blamed for interference in the 2016 election. There was an indictment issued against several individuals associated with it. To make a long story short, it was accused of creating online fake American activist groups that didn't really exist in reality. And its purpose in doing that was to try to exacerbate and intensify division in American life. It wasn't that those groups were pushing one particular point of view. They were trying to get Americans fighting among each other. That was really the purpose of them. And the leader of the Wagner Group expresses great pride in his work with that agency.
You know, former President Donald Trump called Russia's invasion of Ukraine genius and savvy before he faced criticism even from his own party over that at the time. Do you see the former president walking back these claims at all to appeal to voters? We are expecting to hear from him any minute tonight.
So it is always a dangerous thing to bet much money on what former President Trump will say one way or another. It would seem likely that he perhaps could address this, since it has been dominating the news for the past 24 hours. On his social media account, he has referred to it as a big mess. He has said that people should be careful what they wish for. We'll have to see if he expands on those remarks. But it's worth noting, Natasha, that his whole history of being unusually sympathetic to Vladimir Putin has not hurt him, particularly with the Republican base. And after all, he is still leading national polls for the Republican nomination by a very, very wide margin, something of the order of 30 points.
Okay. Niall Stanage, thank you so much for your time. As always, appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.